right. Welcome to the Sober Heathen Podcast. I am the Sober Heathen. Welcome, friend and foe, because there seems to be more of those these days, those little foes, but that's okay. So, welcome to the podcast. It's been a minute since I've done a solo. It's been a minute since I've done one outside of the 10-minute one that I put together with my kids, which was my all-time favorite. Um, it was interesting to see how sports was the topic of discussion on their end. It was actually really cool to see. It was actually really cool to see them kind of just be them. You know what I mean? I kind of anticipated when I kind of tried to talk a little bit about the recovery and what's going on and what. Oh, look, there my bed is appearing in the background. Um, they kind of just wanted to talk about sports and put their input out there. That was really cool. So hopefully one day they'll have a much more successful podcast talking about whatever they want to, if that's something they choose to do. So anyway, I haven't done a podcast updating about much of what's going on in my life. I did, excuse me, I did put out some posts on X leading up to my 1 year anniversary. I think I did more of the pre-anniversary post than I did on the actual one. I did throw it out there, obviously, but um, so I'm a week into a year now. So my 1 week anniversary was a week ago yesterday. And just a quick hit on where that is. Things outside, meaning family, friends, job, um, even monetary isn't bad. Everything's pretty damn awesome on the outside. Inside, it's still a little bit empty. Still looking for my spark. The hobbies that I used to enjoy are no longer fun to me. Used to be a gamer. I'll log into a game, sit there for 10 minutes, and I'll log back out. And I have like 6 of them that I rotate through, and it's not tickling my fancy. I did watch my second Lions game in a row, the entire thing. Um, that was enjoyable outside of the outcome last weekend. So I'm still trying to find myself a little bit. I'm working with my doctor on different medications to try to fill in the gaps with some other issues I have, bipolar, depression, anxiety, that type of thing. And just haven't found one that really works for me yet. But on the outside, everything's great. Just still working on myself. So as far as a year goes, I'm not overly excited about it. Not like I was at 6 months. Um, it's it's real. It's authentic. It's not fake. There isn't a bunch of drinking, like in previous attempts to get sober, where I drank a handful of times and pretended I was at 4 months or whatever it was. The desire is all but left. There are times when I'm like, man, and I said this last night to Miley. I said, it'd be if I knew that I could go buy a pint of Captain Morgan and enjoy a few stiff drinks, play some video games, and then go to bed and be done with it, I would love to be able to do that. But evidence would suggest with my past that is not possible. And so this thought process leads me into what I wanted to talk about. And this isn't going to be a long one, I don't think, but um, and maybe this will be the last podcast. I'm not 100% sure. I do have a couple guests lingering out there that have talked about coming on. And then I posted on X um, a response that I got, but I'll get back to that maybe later. Somebody had listened to the podcast and said they wanted to have nothing to do with me and the message I'm trying to send. And I was like, man, that's really weird because I don't think my message has been on the podcast, and I know my guests certainly haven't had a bad message outside of one dude that I disagreed with completely, and I invited him on and tried to have a civil discussion. I think we managed to do that. So yeah, I'm not sure how much farther the podcast is still going to go, but we'll see. So some of the recent posts, I've decided as far as time goes, I don't really feel I need to track it anymore. I have my 1 year coin sitting in front of me. It's metal. It's really cool, and I will keep this forever because that year means something. But the more I look into it, the more I think about it, that one day at a time is very important. 1 hour at a time is important at times. And if we're all doing it one day at a time, then all the time prior to today, it's great. But if we're just focusing on today and those times don't help us through today, it doesn't guarantee us right today, then what's the point of counting? And it really just puts more pressure on anything. And the more that I find, there are people that use that time that they've put behind them as a way of fluffing their ego and superiority to others, which is ironic because these same people are saying that my ego is in the way. Get my necklace out here because I like it. When I say I posted, and anybody that listened to this probably followed me on X because nobody else pays attention to this thing other than people on X. I posted I'm not calling myself an alcoholic anymore because I'm not an alcoholic anymore. It's pretty simple. And some of these people with longevity and they're all coming from one place, and it's AA. And anybody that has listened to this before, I am a proponent, or I am for AA. I love it. It did a lot for me. It just didn't give me to where I am today. It gave me a good foundation. It's something to build on. And I used a bunch of other sources and a bunch of other viewpoints and ideas, because that's what AA is an idea, right? To get me to this 1 year sobriety. But boy, overwhelmingly people were super positive about me calling that, because not calling myself that. And even the ones, there was another, the secondary portion where people were like, I disagree. I think, it might be dangerous to not call yourself an alcoholic because you forget who you were. But I support you and whatever works for you. So that was, between that and the people 100% supported me, was the overwhelming majority of the people that responded. It was a small, louder majority that would have to reply to every other comment and just want to pick a fight. And it really blew my mind that these people coming from AA, they were coming from AA because you can tell the talking points, the one-liners that are constantly thrown out there. And we'll go have a couple drinks and get back to us. What sense does that make? And what they're referring to is they're referring to the chapter in the big book called More About Alcoholism. Okay. And that's where Bill is talking about the moderate drinker, the heavy drinker, and then the real alcoholic. And that's another term they like to throw out there, is that real alcoholic. But hopefully I remember to go back to that because I'm all over the place. If you listened before, you know this. So More About Alcoholism, Bill isn't talking about somebody that has put in work, that's went to 4 treatments, that has lost everything and built everything back up in a year's time and put some serious recovery in that. And not only do I have a year of sobriety, I have all that other time in the past 3 years that I've been working to better myself and to overcome alcoholism. I have all that time, everything that I've learned, every week that I put in sobriety was something getting me to this point. And to take that away from anybody is absolutely ridiculous. To say, oh, well, you had a 2 months and now you just wasted it because you went out to drink, or you weren't ready, or you didn't call your sponsor, or you didn't do this, is just absolutely freaking ridiculous in my mind. And that's just my opinion. So I don't feel that I need to call myself that. And they keep going back to More About Alcoholism. And what they're missing, and maybe I'm wrong, correct me if I'm wrong. I'd love to have discussions. Otherwise, I wouldn't put things out there that invoke discussions. He is talking about somebody that hasn't decided if they are an alcoholic or not yet. They think they may have a problem with drinking. They're not sure. Maybe they're a hard drinker. Maybe they can moderate. Or maybe they are a real alcoholic. This is in the beginning stages of making a decision to do something, not after a fucking year of sobriety and what I call pretty good damn recovery. I've already determined that I'm an alcoholic when I drink, but I have not drank in a year. Therefore, I am not an alcoholic. Okay. And that's just how I feel about it. You feel about it how you want to feel about it. But to misconstrue what Bill was saying about somebody that doesn't know whether they should look for help or not, and if they're a real alcoholic, is completely different than somebody has already accepted that in the past, done a bunch of work to get to where they are now, and drop that label. Completely different. So you're completely misrepresenting what is going on in there. Yet here you are. And that's, I don't want to use the word cult, so I'm going to save it, say it that much, and that's it. So let's talk about the real alcoholic. This is the thing that really gets me too, because the same small, tiny crowd of AA, this minority percentage of people in AA, If you say that, yeah, I just quit drinking on my own, the small crowd will say, well, then you weren't a real alcoholic because you couldn't have done it without AA. If you were a real alcoholic, you would have had to do it our way. Show me where that you get to label other people that whether they're alcoholic or not. That is your choice. I admitted that I'm powerless over alcohol and my life become unmanageable. That's step one. It says we admitted that we were powerless over alcohol, but it's not saying we decided that you are alcoholic and your life is unmanageable. We did it. They're saying that the group of us had decided individually that they were alcoholic and their lives had become unmanageable and they're powerless over it. That is step one. So to tell somebody that is out there working or overcome it without the steps and without AA or your way, whatever that may be, that you weren't a real alcoholic is a real douche mover thing to say. That is ego and that is a superiority complex if there is anything. I am not the one with an ego when I put something out there to discuss. And I'm not, so you're not a real alcoholic. Just listen to that for a second. Well, then you weren't a real alcoholic. If you could go back and moderate, you weren't a real alcoholic. Are you fucking kidding me? Who are you to tell them if their life, if they felt powerless over it, you don't know what they felt. If their life was unmanageable, that's their decision. And I support anybody that has overcome alcohol any freaking way. Even if it was just like, you know what? I went to yoga and I did a lot of meditating and I just lost the desire. Hell yeah, that's super cool. You know, I went and got acupuncture. Cool. I had some dude beat me with a stick for months every time I thought about it. Okay, that's kind of weird, but good for you. You know what? Like I said, this could be the last podcast, so fuck it. I'm going to be authentic. That's what I set out to be, right? So I walked away from religion because I would have people sitting up here thinking they were sitting up here and talking down to me a certain way, that I couldn't live a certain way, that I couldn't be moral, I couldn't be kind, I couldn't live a good life unless I had this particular religion. And then I'd try to have discussions about it. And then it turns out that I've read their book that they use more than they have and was able to have a conversation where they would just get frustrated and just call me whatever they wanted to call me. The same thing has happened again, and that's a small group of people. And Christianity was a religion that I grew up in. Okay, just to be clear. And then when I got into AA, I found a bunch of great things, just like I did when I was younger in Christianity, that made me feel good, that made me feel connected, gave me a group of people to talk to. Again, I was a really little kid, so it's a little bit different, but I loved going to church and singing and doing all these things. And then as I got older, I had questions. And then, it was response with, anger, or there was ego, and there were just things that I didn't like. And then I started reading the book and I had questions, and it was like, well, don't ask questions, just listen. Kind of like take the cotton out of your ears and put it in your mouth. You heard that before? So as I stayed in AA and the longer I got, these smaller crowds, these individuals, little individuals, and please understand that they are a small group. These people just, they're so loud. Whether they actually are that loud or I'm creating that could be too. But they're so loud with their condescending comments and actions and tone. You have to do it this way. This is how it's done. Like I said, the cotton out of your ears and put it in your mouth. It's just, yeah, you don't talk for the first couple of weeks that you're in the room. Just shut up and make the coffee and listen. I mean, just how terrible is that? And so somebody might listen to this and be like, well, that worked for me. I can't believe he's saying that. Well, good. If it worked for you, I am happy. But don't sit here and try to pretend that this is the way that it's going to have to be for others to do it. It might not work. And you're just being completely and totally dishonest if you think that AA hasn't pushed away a large number of people because of this. I know that it's intimidating to go in there and say I started over, because I had two different sponsors. And when I would screw up and I was actually ready to be honest about it, it was really fucking hard to do. Really hard to go back and say I fucked up. Because some people are going to be like, hey, you know what? Get back on the wagon. You're here. That's all that matters. You're here and you're back on the horse. Those are the people that need to be heard. Then you got these other people. Well, did you call your sponsor? Were you working the steps? How many meetings did you go to? Yeah. And it's just, this condescending, these condescending pricks that think they got it all figured out. And and if you're offended by me talking about religion and AA this way, sorry. This is just me being honest. I'm not trying to be a dick. I'm willing to have a conversation with anybody. And if anybody disagrees with me and they, my schedule's a little different now, but if you want to come on and talk about it, and have a discussion about it, or even a mild argument about what I'm saying, you're more than welcome to. Um, there is no one way to do things. And that goes for religion. There are thousands of religions on this planet, and millions of people are a part of those religions, and they are living a healthy, moral, happy life, and they're not out killing and raping everybody. So to say that there's one way to do that is just not honest. And to say that AA is the only way to get clean and sober and to not be a dry drunk is just dishonest. Was it the most popular way? Yeah. Does it have government backing? A little bit. There were politicians that were speaking out for this thing. Is the anonymity part good? Yes, because that opens the door for more people to go in. But does that make it hard to really see how good AA is doing? Because I was sent a study, or I don't know if it was considered a study. It was a summary of a study about how successful AA is. And you can go out and you can find other ones that would say the opposite, that it's at the bottom. It's at the bottom for people in recovery. And I think that's becoming more and more true. I don't have anything right now to back it up. I'm going by my sample size of people that I talk to on X, and the sample size of people that I talk to on Facebook, the sample size of people that I talk to at work, working in this field, and the sample size of people in the community on what works for them. I know a guy that has, I think it's 11 or 12 years now, and he did the same thing as I did. AA was a huge part of it. And he hasn't been into a meeting in years because the meetings can be perverted and twisted by ego. And that's the one thing that I learned through working the steps with a sponsor and going to AA, that ego and fear are two huge things that can set you back. So if you're trading your ego, if you're using the groups and allowing your ego to fester, there's a fancy term that AA likes to throw around too. It's a dry drunk. But no, God forbid, that ain't them, because they're going to meetings. They have a sponsor. They have X amount of time under their belt, and they would never say that they're not calling themselves something again. I'm always an alcoholic, forever and always. And that's okay if you really think that. Truly, I'm not trying to be condescending, because I had some really great people support me on X when I said this. That said that they're going to refer to themselves as alcoholic forever and always, and that's fine. Do what you need to do to stay sober, because anybody that stops drinking poison, I'm for it, because that's what alcohol is. It's a poison, and however you can do it, I will support you, even if you're a giant dick. And I try to, even when people are giant dicks, I try to end it with some sort of common ground. I try to end it with some sort of something we agree on, and then I try to walk away from it. You can call it a character defect. You can call it a shortcoming of getting into it with people who aren't worth it. You can tell from go. But I think it is worth challenging some of these thoughts sometimes, not to change their mind, but for other people to be able to see it. Because people that are that hard-headed and stuck in their ways on those things, as far as like AA and or religious things, you're not going to change their mind. But I think it is very healthy to challenge them at times and have a discussion that you may not want to do, but somebody out there might get a piece of information from me that they don't like, and that might help them find their way to a religion or AA. Or they might hear something I say, and that might break them free from something that they felt they had to do or stuck to do, and they might be free. Again, this isn't ego. This is what happened to me. I would listen to what other people were saying. I would go to different types of meetings, and Peer 360, Smart Recovery. I've been to these different refuge recovery. I've been to these different meetings, and I hear these things, and they're kind of saying the same thing, but they're saying it in a different way. And some of them are far less condescending, and like, you gotta tell somebody else all your dirty laundry. Okay. You got to get rid of your defects of character and your shortcomings. You got to call yourself an alcoholic or an addict. You're powerless and your life is unmerit. These are all negative things. These are all negative things. And I don't understand continuing to beat yourself up when you've put in hard work to get to a certain point. And what that point is for everybody can be completely different. I picked a year. Maybe somebody could make a decent argument that a year is not enough. But for me, right now it is. And maybe for some people, you got to be sober for 10 years before you decide to would ever think the way that I'm thinking. And that's fine. That's totally up to you. I love the people that I've met and had on my podcast, even XRP. I'm glad to have all these conversations. I'm glad that my Twitter account, I mean, I think I got closing in on 1,700 followers, and that's not a nothing burger to the huge accounts or whatever. And even some people that I consider friends, they have thousands and thousands of them. But I'm happy. I'm happy that it's grown to what it is, and I'm not going to change who I am just to cater. And I kind of did that in the beginning when I first got on X and the recovery posse. But the truth of the matter is, now that I've been speaking how I truly feel, the one day when I posted, I'm no longer calling myself an alcoholic. It went up 100 followers in a day. Again, that's nothing in the grand scheme of things, but for me, that's a ton. And whether they're following to see the train wreck that they think I am, or they're following because they find it interesting, is irrelevant. Me being authentic is causing a discussion and causing more people to be able to be in on the conversations that I enjoy having. And who knows, one day somebody might say something that I can disagree with today. Somebody might be able to articulate it in a way in the future where that changed my mind. And maybe I'll find a religion, and maybe I'll go back to AA and think, yes, this is the only way. And I'll get my 2 big books that look like rainbows because of all the highlights and stickers that I put in them, and I'll carry them around. I still actually carry one around in my backpack. But maybe I'll carry both of them around at the same time, just to show people how awesome I am and how much I read the big book. Just kidding. But anyway, I don't know what the future holds for this thing. I do have a guest that we're gonna talk later this week about maybe coming on, but I don't know. We'll see how it goes. This whole thing was to document my first year of recovery, and today I sit here as a person that has worked their ass off. I've laid in bed in this year, not wanting to get up. Yesterday was just a terrible day from the moment I woke up, to nobody's fault. It was causing no one. I've been irritable and short with people that I love and care about. They've done nothing wrong. So it's not peaches and cream, but in 1 year, I've gotten back almost everything that I lost. Monetary wise, it's going to take a long time. If I go hit the lottery for like $30,000 and I can get all my debts paid off, and I could be literally at zero and wipe the slate clean, but money will come. So in this 1 year doing podcasts and having great guests from literally all over the world and across the United States, I cannot tell you how grateful I am for everybody that's come on here, that's commented or subscribed. It meant a lot. And who knows, maybe we'll do this again soon, but thank you. And maybe we'll see you on the next one. Either way, have a great day. And if you're sober today, that's awesome. If you're not, tomorrow's a new day. Take care, everybody.